You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. What is the coup de grace of all self-employed people, all businesses? Anything that you could possibly imagine that would be the greatest thing in the world, and the reason why so many people go into business is passive income. What a wonderful hypothetical fantasy for so many people, but a slim majority of people in the world have figured this out and have learned how to generate passive income. So these people are very rare. And when we can get them on the show and talk to them about how they created passive income, I think it's a real treat. So today we've got, Rachel Richards with us. She is a former financial advisor who has made a name for herself in the personal finance realm because in 2019, Rachel quit her job and retired with over $10,000 a month in passive income. You know, a lot of self-employed business people I know don't even make that much in their business, working 60 and 70 hours a week. But Rachel has done that successfully. She is the best-selling author of Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement. Love that title. She has been featured on the Penny Hoarder and the New York Times. She has been contracted to speak at colleges. She is a real estate investor, and her valuable money lessons have helped thousands of millennials work their way out of financial despair. Now, the neat thing here is, and I left this out from the beginning on purpose, Rachel is only 27 years old. Okay, so what is your excuse? If she can do it, you can do it too. And here to share her secrets with you, Rachel Richards. Welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thanks, Ralph. I love the wonderful intro. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I wish I could be you back when I was 27 years old. So that I could have gotten my stuff together, so to speak. Yeah. As I'm looking at your website, it's empowering female millennials. Well, that knocks me out because I'm not a female and I'm not a millennial anymore, but I still think we could all learn, from your story. But, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get started in real estate, and what's your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you covered a lot of my background. I'm a real estate investor, professional speaker, best-selling author, former financial advisor, and now I'm retired. And my passion is really teaching personal finance because when you think about the nature of the times right now, we are in a financial education crisis because at no point in our lives are we taught how to manage our money. We're left as adults to try to figure it out all on our own. And unfortunately, we have these bad feelings of shame and guilt over not knowing how to manage our money. So it's overall an unfortunate circumstance. I mainly help female millennials because I am one, and that's the market that people can relate to. Millennials have this stigma for being lazy and entitled and wanting the easy answers. But when it comes to millennials that I know and help, I have found that's not the case at all. You know, all throughout high school and college, my family and friends would come to me for financial questions. And my female millennial friends were the ones that they were not okay with not understanding finance. They wanted to know. They were eager to learn. They just needed a resource. I began to wonder, why they were coming to me when there's free resources out there. There's websites, there's books, there's all these ways you can learn about money management. At some point, I realized Of course, personal finance tends to be a boring, intimidating, complex topic, right? No one likes to go read a finance book.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, old guys in suits, and it's like, boring, It's like, that's what comes to my mind when I think about, personal finance. I can think of 1,000 things I'd rather do than think about that. You've put a completely different take on it.
Exactly. So I thought to myself, well, how can I make this topic sassy and fun and humorous and simple? And that's where the idea for Money Honey came into being. That's when I started writing Money Honey. Millennials, they're highly motivated to learn about money, and females in particular tend to feel more guilt and shame. And being a female millennial myself, that's the audience I really wanted to hone in on. But as you mentioned, these money lessons, they're for anybody to learn. I just relate the best to female millennials because I am one, but the lessons can be for anyone to learn. And it doesn't matter, where you are in life. It doesn't matter how old you are or when you started working. You can use these money lessons to set yourself up for financial success.
I love that. And I love your branding. I love the title of your book, Passive Income, Aggressive Retirement. It's like,
Thank you. Actually, I can't take credit for that. One of my readers thought of that for me.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's wonderful because we all know what passive aggressive is. I love the wordplay. As a copywriter, I'm impressed with that. That's wonderful. But Money Honey is an interesting concept as well. What does Money Honey represent?
That was my way of putting a catchy phrase on a book. So it doesn't represent any particular idea or person. But now people call me, that's Money Honey Rachel. You need to go talk to Money Honey Rachel. So it cracks me up, but it's the perfect little catchphrase.
It is. It's very catchy. So you've got a lot of great, branding and ideas and things. And you really have put some new life into a topic that can be intimidating and can be quite boring for some people. I think these are lessons, like you said, everyone can learn, and regardless of age, regardless of where you are, we can always do better than what we're doing. And as you work, you're retired, right? But now your work is your play. So you're training, you're teaching, you're speaking, you're writing books, you're helping people to get their brains wrapped around this idea of personal finance. What is the greatest challenge? What's the obstacle that holds people back, that prevents them from grasping this and really mastering their money instead of becoming a slave to work or job or just to debt? What is the big problem here?
The most common problem is a lack of urgency because we don't have the financial education in place. People don't understand how to manage their money well and why it's so important to learn this at a young age. It kind of goes to this whole instant versus delayed gratification concept. It's actually very similar to going on a diet. Diets are something that I personally struggle with. I mean, it's so hard to do. I constantly want my downfall is chocolate. I constantly want to eat like a cookie or chocolate or whatever. So it's the decision of if I eat this now, then that's going to impact me negatively in the long run. Whereas if I sacrifice this now, then I'm going to be healthier and lose weight and be fit like I want to in the long run. So it's all about delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification, yeah. Well, that's hard though, right?
It's so hard. Having the discipline when it comes to your financial future, it's one of the hardest things human beings can do is having that self-discipline. So the difficult part about financial education is first getting people to understand why this is actually so urgent and what the exact consequences are of not being informed about your money. Now, once you do that, once you have people on board and they're ready to learn, then it becomes easy. If someone is already at that level where they understand, they want to get their finances under control, then the most common problem I see at that point is generally people getting into credit card debt and not being able to find a way out.
And I think taking both of those together, is it true that people go into credit card debt because they haven't learned delayed gratification? And instead of figuring it out, saving for it, budgeting for it, they get into a bind, or they just don't know how to stop themselves from buying something on Amazon, and so they charge it. Does one kind of feed into the other?
Oh, for sure. I think it's all about that instant gratification. And the credit card debt makes that easy for you to do because suddenly something that you really, really want, feel like you deserve to have, but you can't afford, suddenly you can afford that if you have a credit card because then you can split it up into all these little payments. The thing that people don't take the time to do is actually do the math and calculate how much it's costing them. Because when you're paying 20 to 25% interest, that item is actually costing you hundreds of dollars more, depending on the cost. So it's really easy to get wrapped up into that. Credit card companies really target young people because they know that young people don't know better. And that's really unfortunate. That's why it's one of the most common mistakes that I see, particularly young people making.
And I think also, in the old days, and I'm old enough to remember the old days where everything was paper based, you'd get a credit card statement in the mail. And you'd have to, look at it and it'd be like 6 or 7 pages long. And you thought, what the heck? And you can see what you're doing. But now with everyone opting out with electronic statements and you just get an email and some people don't even look at it. And you're not really even conscious of how quickly these charges are racking up. Plus, it's not like they flag it and say, hey, look at all this interest we just added to your credit card. It just kind of gets, secretly added on there and you keep paying and paying and paying and you never make any progress. And that's why. Do you think the digital economy that we're in has kind of, obscured what's actually going on so that we're not even aware that we're getting deeper and deeper?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I use credit cards myself. I'm never going to be one that says credit cards are bad because they're actually can be a good tool if you use them wisely. So if you pay your balance in full every single month, that's the way to use a credit card. You have to treat it just like a debit card. But you're right. The digital environment that we're in, we're not getting that information in our face anymore. We kind of have to go hunting for it. I don't remember the last time I even saw my credit card statement.
Right.
And again, I'm paying the balance in full every month, so I'm not paying interest, but that's a great point. I'm not forced to confront those numbers every month and really look at what's happening. And another thing that the digital age is doing is it's making online shopping very, very easy. Because think about being on your phone, you're on social media, you see an ad on Facebook. You're literally one click away from buying an item that maybe you don't need.
Yeah. Boy, you can go through my Amazon order history and see evidence of that. I mean, it's just
right, me too.
It's like, you have purchased 672 items in the last 6 months. I'm like, what? When did I do that? Where did it all go?
Right. My vice is books. I buy so many books and it's like, man, I need to cut back.
Yeah, that's one of the many things that I tend to indulge in, especially on Amazon. So I want to get to the passive income part of this, but I got to stick with where we are right now because I think a lot of people are thinking, hey, this is great. Congrats to you for figuring this out at your age, because you're really set. You've got passive income. You're retired. Your work is now your play. You can do what you want. But it's too late for me. I'm in my 30s, in my 40s, even in my 50s. And I've got debt and I've got all of these things going on and it's too late for me to do anything to make a difference. What would you say to someone like that?
I would say it's definitely not too late. 2 years ago in 2017, I had zero passive income. So I was right there in the same situation. I originally thought that it was going to take me 10 to 15 years to build up enough passive income to retire, but I ended up surprising myself. I mean, only 2 or 3 years later, here we are. Now, the thing is, you really want to make sure that you have a hold on the fundamental foundation of finance itself. So you want to make sure you're doing a good job with saving, you're doing a good job with investing, you don't have any really crazy high interest rate debts, I really recommend that you get those debts paid off first. A mortgage is fine, but you want to really get a handle on those aspects of your finances before you start building passive income.
Now, would you want to pay off debt before you save or invest, or do you need to do a little bit of both at the same time?
So it really depends on your preference. So one things I do with my readers is I talk to them about how debt averse they are. Because someone like me, the idea of having debt, it makes me panic. Like it makes me feel suffocated and weighted down. And I don't ever want to have debt. That's been one of kind of my fears and my driving forces throughout my financial journey is total avoidance of debt. Now, another person could be the total opposite of me. And there's no right or wrong. This is just personal preference. But maybe they would have this fear of not having enough in savings and feeling like they're not secure. And if they lose their job, then what are they going to do?
That's interesting.
That's kind of,
yeah,
that's kind of the two extremes. What I like to do is I say, okay, you want to at least have $1,000 set aside in emergency savings, because what that does is we don't know when an unexpected expense is going to come up. None of us can predict the future. We don't know when our car is going to break down. We don't know when our dog is going to eat a tennis ball again, right?
Yeah,
and
again,
if you don't have that $1,000 set aside, you're going to be forced to go into more debt. You're going to have to put it on your credit card. It's going to be a total financial setback. So that's truly the first step, is have at least $1,000 set aside in an emergency savings. From there, it really is going to depend on how debt averse you are. Maybe you're going to think, okay, now I'm going to put 50% of this money towards savings, 50% towards debt payoff. Someone who's debt averse like me, they're going to put 100% of that extra money towards debt payoff and get that debt paid off as fast as they can. So it's really a matter of personal preference.
I like how you put that, because that resonates with me. I'm not so much concerned about the balance on my credit card as I am my cash reserves. And if I've got sufficient cash reserves, I feel like, I could just pay off the low interest on the credit cards or whatever. And that doesn't really bother me so much if I have a nice reserve for things that come up. And I guess that's based just on personal preference, like you said, and where we are at different points in our life. So this is really good information. Now, you're saying that we should do these steps, get a plan in place for paying off debt, for saving and investing before we start working on passive income.
Yeah, because I think it's important that you have your finances in order before you move on to something a little more advanced.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't recommend that someone tries to do something, risky or starts in making risky investments before they even have their credit card debt paid off, right? So there's a certain order in which you want to approach your financial life.
Perfect. So, how did you figure out this passive income thing? And for people who don't know what that is, passive income is income that doesn't require you to work for it. You have stopped exchanging time for money. And there's a few vehicles, a few different ways you can do that. The vehicle that worked for you was real estate. Tell us about that story. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I have a couple different passive income streams, and real estate is one of them. So real estate was something I always wanted to invest in just based on what I had learned about it. I truly think it's one of the best tools for building long-term wealth. So I had always wanted to invest in real estate. My husband and I, we bought our first duplex in 2017. And keep in mind, this is in Louisville, Kentucky. So housing prices are reasonable. Cost of living is very low. I say that because I know that there's Bay Area people and New York City people that are probably just scoffing at me.
Right.
And it's true that it's not realistic everywhere in the country. But, our first duplex, it cost $100,000. We put 20% down on it. So we had to put in 20 grand, and it was cash flowing $500 per month right off the bat, which was an amazing investment. And to this day, I still think that's one of the best investments we've ever made. But that was our first purchase, January 2017. From there, we were just saving that $500 so that we could reinvest it later. And once you kind of get your first one and then your second one, your momentum really builds up quickly because you're saving all this cash flow, and you can start buying these properties a lot more aggressively. So that's kind of how our journey started.
I really love that. And you make a good point about markets are different, and if you're in California or if you're in New York City, that's a very different conversation than Louisville, Kentucky. But who's to say that if you're living in these areas that you can only look in these areas? I mean, you can.
Exactly.
You're going to be generating income. I imagine that you have a property manager or a property management company who was dealing with things locally. So you don't have to be looking for things that are within a 30-minute drive of wherever you are. Think outside the box and expand beyond that and go into a market that's affordable, because you're not going to be there. You're not like Mr. Roper, on Three's Company, where he's living in the building and he's taking care of stuff. That's kind of the what people typically think when they're thinking about the landlord. But you're setting up something that makes it possible to do this as an absentee with passive income, because you've got so many. How many? You've got 35 rental units, right?
Yes, so
and
35
growing.
floors. In Louisville, Kentucky. And here's the thing. So the concept you're talking about, I call it long distance landlording, because you're right. There's nothing stopping you from looking into a different rental market or a different state to invest. And for a lot of the people living in California or some of these really high cost of living areas, that's the way to do it. Now, here's the funny thing, because some people will say, well, Rachel, it's easy for you to say, you live in Kentucky, but it's, whatever, who knows how it is in reality. Here's the funny thing is my husband and I are in the middle of a cross-country move right now. So we're literally moving to Colorado. We are now officially long-distance landlords. We have people in place in Kentucky to help us manage, to do maintenance, to do cleaning, everything we need. So, I am living that out in reality now, and I'm seeing that it's absolutely possible.
Yeah. So if this is something that you're thinking about, I remember someone saying one time that they didn't want to own a restaurant because they didn't want to get up at 4 a.m. and go in there and cook. It's like, what? Owning it is different from running it. Okay. So when we're talking about passive income and long distance landlording, you own the thing. It doesn't mean that you run the thing or that you're there working 9 to 5 and having to deal with phone calls and everything. And so there's lots of different ways that you can achieve your goal. And so this is one way that's worked for you. Now, you mentioned that you had a couple of passive income streams. Would you want to share your other stream?
Oh, sure. It's my royalties from my books.
There you go.
So that's my other big chunk of income. Yeah, I have my 2 books, Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement. And in February 2020, I had my first $7,000 month. So this is a passive income stream in that I could do very, very little to no work to maintain it at its current level. Now, because I am retired and because this is my passion, right now it's about working if I want to, not because I need to. So I'm still trying to grow this and make this passive income stream even bigger, which is why I'm spending a lot of time on it right now.
Excellent. Well, that is really, really, really amazing that you're having such good success with your books. I love books. I love writing books, not because they are big money makers, but because I just enjoy writing. But one wonderful thing about whether it's a book or whether you put together a course or whatever it is, information product, you write it once, you create it once, and you're done. And you can scale that infinitely. So it doesn't create more work for you to sell 10,000 books as it does to sell 1,000,000 books. Unless you are the one, printing it, putting it in the envelope and mailing it out. But these days we don't have to do that. So you've really got some great strategies in place.
Yeah. And I love the term, Ralph, scalability. I talk about that in my book about passive income because, rental income, there's so many advantages about it, but it's not scalable in the same way that an online product or an online service is, because you're right. It doesn't take any more work on my part for my book to sell 10,000 copies versus 1,000 copies. The work is done. I've already written it. Now I can sit back and just take in the royalty income. So scalability is something that I see as a huge benefit whenever you're looking at a different type of passive income stream to start pursuing.
Excellent. So, you are also, doing, speaking and going around to different colleges and, sharing your strategies with your target audience, with millennials. What are you working on right now that's got you really excited?
Right now, I am actually working on creating my first course. So I'm creating a course to go along with my first book, Money Honey, because here's the thing. some people need a higher level of accountability to implement what they've learned. Some people can take a book, they can do it all themselves, they're in great shape. Other people really want to have somebody that's helping them. They want something more hands-on and they want direct help. So I've realized that this is a great way that I can continue to serve my audience is by providing them something that holds them accountable and that helps them actually implement what they've learned. So probably within the next month or so, I'm going to be launching that course, Money Honey, for how to get your financial stuff together.
I love that. Yeah, your financial stuff. I like the way you put it. We just can't say it on the radio.
I know. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. We know what you're talking about. Well, that is really exciting. And I think that anyone of any age and wherever you are in your financial, your life or your business strategy, you definitely need to check this out and learn from someone who has already accomplished a level of success that you may still be trying to aspire to. So if you're interested, go to moneyhoneyrachel.com and we'll have that link on the Rebelpreneur website as well. Rachel, it has been really fun to connect with you. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah. So here's a takeaway that I would love everyone listening to really understand and to acknowledge as true. It's just short and sweet, but I just want to say that anyone at any age and on any income can achieve financial independence. You absolutely can do this.
Wonderful, wonderful words of encouragement from Rachel Richards. She is only 27 years old, but she is a former financial advisor who has made a name for herself in the personal finance realm. In 2019, Rachel quit her job and retired with over $10,000 a month in passive income. Her valuable money lessons have helped thousands of millennials work their way out of financial despair, and she is the author of Passive Income, Aggressive Retirement, as well as Money Honey. If you want to find out more, and who wouldn't, right? Go to moneyhoneyrachel.com. Rachel, thank you so much for visiting with us today. I really appreciate you being on Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thank you so much, Ralph, for having me.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.